Today, I want to talk about what truly makes a film's climax impactful, and that comes down to one thing: the climactic choice. This is the defining decision a character makes near the end of a story, the moment where theme, character, and plot all collide to create catharsis. And there might be no better example of this than Christopher Nolan's psychological thriller Memento from the year 2000. If you haven't seen Memento yet, I strongly recommend it, but I also need to give a spoiler warning right now because we're going to talk directly about the film's structure and its ending. So if you haven't seen it yet and want to go in blind, pause here, watch Memento, and then come back so we can dig into it together. Alright, spoilers ahead. Now, if you've seen Memento, you already know why I almost want to put air quotes around the word ending, because the ending of the film is actually the beginning of the story. That's the brilliant trick Nolan pulls. Memento tells its story in two directions at once. The black and white scenes move forward chronologically while the color scenes move backward. On paper, that sounds like a confusing mess, but in execution, it's shockingly clear. We're confused in the exact same way Leonard is confused, and that's not an accident. Leonard suffers from anterograde amnesia, meaning he can't form new memories, and the structure of the film forces us to live inside that condition. So, what does this have to do with the climactic choice? Everything. Let's lay out the story in its true chronological order. Leonard is manipulated by Teddy into killing Jimmy Grant by being told that Jimmy is his wife's attacker, John G. As Jimmy dies, he references Sammy, which triggers Leonard's suspicion. Leonard realizes Teddy has been using him, so he writes himself a note not to trust Teddy and tattoos Teddy's license plate onto his body. Leonard then encounters Natalie, Jimmy's girlfriend, who learns how to manipulate Leonard to her advantage by using his condition. Teddy tries to warn Leonard about Natalie, but because Leonard has already told himself not to trust Teddy, he ignores him. Natalie helps Leonard run the license plate, which leads directly back to Teddy. That takes us to the opening scene of the film where Leonard shoots Teddy. If Memento were told in this order, the climax would simply be Leonard killing Teddy. It would work as a revenge story, but it wouldn't be especially profound. The real power of Memento comes from reversing the order of events so that the climax isn't the killing, but the choice that leads to it. At the end of the film, in Leonard's internal monologue, we watch him decide what to do with the truth. He knows Teddy used him. He knows his wife's real attacker is already dead. And instead of stopping, Leonard makes a choice. He chooses to lie to himself. He chooses to create a new John G. And in doing so, he chooses who he wants to be. This is the climactic choice, and it's devastating. Leonard understands that because he can't remember, his actions don't feel like they have consequences. Every outcome feels like a fresh event. But in that final moment, Leonard rejects that idea. He decides that his actions do matter, even if he won't remember them, and that's why his line about needing mirrors to remind ourselves of who we are is so important. Leonard uses tattoos, notes, and photographs as mirrors, and because he chooses what information gets etched into his body, he chooses his identity. The tattoos also represent the passage of time. Leonard numbers his facts, which is fascinating, because he doesn't need to do that, but numbering them provides to himself that progress exists and that he's moving forward even if he can't feel it. And the final fact that he tattoos is Teddy's license plate. This is crucial. That tattoo ends the chase. Once Leonard kills Teddy, every future version of Leonard will see that license plate and eventually realize that there is no John G left to find. In his strange existential way, Leonard is ending his own purpose, and that raises a huge question. What happens when you achieve your goal? Leonard will wake up every day without memory, but for the rest of us, when we finally reach the thing that we've been chasing, what then? Is purpose something we build over a lifetime or something we choose moment by moment? Is it better to remember who we were or to constantly redefine who we are now? Memento doesn't answer these questions, but it forces us to sit with them, and that's why the placement of the climactic choice matters so much. In the story's reality, Leonard's choice happens early in the film, but in the film, it happens at the very end, after we've lived inside Leonard's confusion, desperation, and need for meaning. By the time he makes that choice, we understand exactly what it costs him. If the film were told chronologically, the climax would just be a murder. Because of the structure, the climax becomes a philosophical statement. Leonard isn't just choosing to kill Teddy, he's choosing to live with a lie because the lie gives him purpose. That's powerful, and that's why Memento's structure isn't a gimmick, it's essential. It allows the climactic choice to carry the full thematic weight of the film. This is something Nolan doesn't always nail, but here he absolutely does. And it's why Memento still gets discussed decades later. So I want to ask you, do you think Leonard's choice makes him a villain or a tragic hero? Is he lying to himself out of weakness or strength? And could this story have worked at all without its unconventional structure? Let me know in the comments because Memento is one of those films where every viewer walks away with a slightly different interpretation. Thank you for taking the time to think about this film with me. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.